Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of AdaDerana BIZ 24. Now, as we know it, Sri Lanka is at a crossroads when considering the political instability, economical instability, and of course other sectors practically crumbling at the economical crisis that's currently happening in Sri Lanka. Now, because of this, I'm sure many of you viewers at home have had to pause certain things in their lives in order to deal with the crisis, which probably has personally impacted almost all of you right now. And having to put things on hold is one of the biggest factors that have been put on hold by the youth today is the education sector. Now, putting your education on hold is essentially putting your future on hold as we know it. And of course, we have at some point been forced to make this decision due to the adversities that we are facing due to the crisis that's happening in Sri Lanka. Now, to better understand this topic and to better learn exactly how to deal with these adversities and to walk through this storm of crisis that's happening in Sri Lanka, we have a very important guest with us here today. We have Dr. Kitsiri Edarisinghe, who is the CEO and co-founder of the International Institute of Health Sciences. Doctor, it is very great to have you on the program today. And Dr. Kitsiri is actually very experienced in this field of healthcare. He has over 30 years of experience in healthcare and also 20 years of experience in the education sector as well. So he is quite literally the most suitable person for this discussion for you today. And of course, considering the crisis that's happening in Sri Lanka, we have to figure out putting our education on hold is essentially putting our future on hold. So we need to know how to bridge the gap to get a better fitting future for our youth. Doctor, that's where I would like to lead you into our discussion today. What do you think, Doctor, about the current situation of our country and how is it affecting the youth in our country, the students in our country?
Yeah, thank you. Good to be back at the show. As you rightly said, education is one of the fundamental needs of any human being, and this is what it is all about. The current situation is not specifically limited to Sri Lanka. This is the global trend, and then where the post-COVID effects as well as the current ongoing wars and etc. Is hitting us back. So what was paused for about 2 years, now we are experiencing it, not only us, though globally. So in terms of Sri Lanka, I mean, we all know what we have gone through and what the status that we are in. So in a position like this, parents are not in their state of mind is different. All are anxious. So when your mind is not at ease, the decisions that you take may not be the right one. So it's important to not have a knee-jerk reaction and take decisions, especially on education. So therefore, we are here to talk about what we can do at this particular moment. Now, if you really look at the trust in local systems are slowly going down. So therefore, most of the youth looking out of the country to go for the first world. So that trend was there, now it has increased now. So average we get about 20,000 students going out of the country, and this year it will maybe more. But where do they go? Where do they go and what do they do? So in average middle income group, can they afford a program to go for a typical 3-year degree program? It will cost them about 20 million rupees. 20 million is a quite amount of money for this current situation. So what can we do to manage whatever the finances that we have? So if you have, if you are working on a top results, if you have good results, best thing is to go to the state universities, which the education is free. So secondly, they could also look at, if they are not selected, they could always look at the secondary option, that is the state university sponsored or the non-state universities. University Grants Commission approved programs are there. So there you are eligible to entitled to get a loan, bank loan. So you can pay it over a period of time. That's the second option that you have. Like, so after completing the bachelor's, they can look at going out of the country, once again buying time. So secondly, what they can do is, thirdly, what they can do is to move into the first world. So there are a few options that they have. Initially, they could do a part of the program in Sri Lanka, maybe go out to the country for the final year. Or they can complete the total program in Sri Lanka, go out of the country. So these two, second and third option that I gave, you can cut down the cost by about almost 75% if you do a part program here and go out of the country or the final year maybe. Or if you complete the total program here, you are cutting down about 85% of the cost. Therefore, I would strongly suggest to look at these options and take a decision on education.
Right, Doctor. That is quite the strong groundwork that we have laid for the discussion that we have that is supposed to be taking place. Now, I have quite the few questions to ask you, Doctor, but before that, let's take a short break. You're with AdaDerana BIZ 24. Be right back. Welcome back to BIZ 24. We were in conversation with CEO and co-founder of the Institute of International Health Sciences, Dr. Kitsiri Edurisinghe. Doctor, you had laid quite the groundwork for the introduction for this discussion just prior, and we were speaking about, of course, how to go forward considering the situation of our country. Now, the need of the hour is that we need to produce skilled professionals that are able to take care of a global understanding, to produce basically global candidates through education. Now, IIHS has actually been, with your 20 years of experience, IIHS has actually been a leader in this entire scenario where basically there are long-term, immediate, and of course short-term measures that have been taken by IIHS. Now, we would like to know, give us some insight on how IIHS is exactly tackling this issue.
Oh, excellent question. See, the world is moving very rapidly. And with this dynamic environment, healthcare comes on the first choices in many countries, and there's a massive demand for healthcare professionals. So if you look at the short term, we should be able to get hold of existing professionals in Sri Lanka to train them or move out of the country. That's a short term, what we can do. Currently, the best option that we have is the existing nursing professionals in Sri Lanka, train them in orientation programs, and then get the registration of the respective countries. Currently, UK is open, Australia is opening, and there's US. So huge demand, like for nurses, another 50,000 in Australia, 80,000 in UK, maybe another almost 1 million in US. So there is quite amount of opportunities available. Secondly, for the other categories like the professionals who have lost jobs and because of the COVID and others, we've organized a care assistant program, because the hospitals are congested with patients. So they can't move into the social environment because there's nobody to look after. So in hospitals as well as the social environment, there are enough opportunities for health and social care workers. So we are currently conducting a program. For both, we've signed up with National Health Services UK as well as the Care England, which would give them a very straightforward progress without going through agencies. So secondly, medium term, what we could do is we could create degrees which would allow them to be eligible to these countries. For example, we deliver Coventry University top-up degree program for nurses. So for you to go out of the country, you need a degree. So Coventry University is the second ranked university for nursing in UK. So we have created nearly 1,500 cohort graduates now who are eligible to go, and we have about nearly over 2,000 active students. So the medium term, we can look at the other allied health sciences, because you need physios, you need occupational therapists, speech therapists, you name it, the whole allied health science gamut of things are there. So we are training them on that. So they can, once they complete the degree in Sri Lanka, they can go out of the country. So for the long term, we have to really look at the youth and train them either in caregiving or other healthcare professionals. So we have programs for 6 months program for caregivers, where the youth could train themselves and can go to places like Singapore and Korea in one level, and bit of a mature youth, they can go into the first world, because you need maturity to go to an English knowledge to go into the first world. And then others could, we have created a brand called Lankan Nurses, where we get the A-level students after A-levels and train them in 3 years at cost. It's our CSR project, and place them in private sector hospital for about 2 years, then they can go out of the country. So those are the options that we have created in limited scope of work that we have. But I think this is the way forward, and most of the, since we are the leader, I know most of the institutions are following us. We're glad to be the part of the total development of youth.
Yes, Doctor, it is quite true that IIHS is a trailblazer when it comes to these kind of effective methods of growth and, of course, of achieving and unlocking potential in students and the healthcare facilities in Sri Lanka. But there's also a question that arises. Healthcare, as you have said, is in high demand right now. Professional demand is quite high for healthcare professionals. But do you believe that Sri Lanka's healthcare system is capable or ready to equip our students, or ready to handle such an international presence?
Absolutely, yes, because if you take our medical college, it has about 150 years old. Nursing school is almost 50 to 75 years old. So we have one of the best systems in the world, healthcare systems. But what we have to do is to create our program suited for the industry. Currently, it's suited for Sri Lanka, of course, yes. But we have to create programs which aligns with the international standards. So we have to work closely with the industry. What typically happens in our programs, we assume this is what the international job description is, which is there in your fingertips. You have to get the job description and look at the learners who are coming in and create a bridge. It's not easily said and done, but if you put an effort for quality, then you can get there.
Right, Doctor. And also, when considering initiatives as grand as yours, we have to consider the sustainability aspect of it all. Now, it is a notable factor that despite being the trailblazer, you would expect there to not be much of a power balance, considering you have to have completely revolutionized the aspect of the healthcare industry and, of course, healthcare professionals. Now, IIHS is very sustainable. Could you please give us more insight on exactly how that is?
Yes, health is an area that everyone needs. Education and health are primary needs of any human being. So when you look at the healthcare needs demand, say humans can plug themselves with gadgets, heart and legs and etc. As long as the brain is not removed and put a computer there, as the human becomes still a human, you need healthcare services. You need a human to look after a human. So therefore, nursing and allied health sciences, medicine will stay there forever. So it's very important anyone selecting a discipline to look at for the next 5 to 10 years at least, whether there was the sustainability of that job. For healthcare, for the next whole century, there will be enough jobs. So therefore, in terms of sustainability, we are at the top of the list.
Right, and also now sustainability is quite the big, the deciding factor in many sectors actually around the world, and healthcare is no exception to that. But I'd also like to question you, sir, regarding the aspect of international and local education. Now, IIHS is a trailblazing educational institution that is working with international education leaders across the globe. Now, I have a simple and blunt question for you, sir. Why UK, USA, Australia? Why other countries of the world? Why not local? Why not just local?
As I told you before, the local curriculums we've organized to work in the local industry. For example, if you want to create a nurse, it's suited, our nursing care is more of a competency based. But when you go out of because we see a lot of patients, we have to look after a lot of patients. But if you look at maybe about 40 to 50 every day, but if you go outside the country, a nurse would look after only about 5. Then the attention and the communication and the other knowledge components are different. So depending on the industries, they are different. And there's, if you look at the country first world, Australia, UK, America, so their systems are more similar, the demands are similar. So, so there is a gap between Sri Lanka and other countries, but skill levels we are good, but we have to put up the knowledge, pack up them with little bit of knowledge, and then organize the behavior of to be a global professional. So that gaps we do that very well, and so we have supported well over 1,000 graduates who work in the first world. Though we do a lot of work in Sri Lanka, we very commendable with the limited resources we work. Our healthcare professionals doing a wonderful job, but when they move into the other countries, obviously they'll have to do a orientation or the program which would suit them to work comfortably in the first world.
Right, and now that was a very good introduction to actually what we're going to speak about right now. The IIHS multiversity is something that has been coming up in the healthcare sector and actually the education system as a whole currently. You know, the Trailblazing Institute that has created a need, a demand for healthcare professionals in Sri Lanka, where there is a little bit of an upset in medical healthcare professionals. And the IIHS Multiversity is something that is a grand and ambitious project that continues to challenge, you know, even after 20 years of experience. So your institution is still growing, and the Multiversity is testament to the fact that there is unlimited potential in healthcare. Now, we understand that your aim is to dominate South Asia and bring a better healthcare, aspect, better healthcare opportunities to South Asia. So could you please elaborate on exactly how the Multiversity is going to function and where and when and the details on the IIHS Multiversity?
So the Multiversity is a wonderful concept that we created, but the namesake, the multiversities, many universities under one belt. The whole idea is to give them the choice. Now in education you hardly get a choice. If you get into a program, you go to A place or B place. So what we do is they can, once they complete the program, they can go to many countries in the world and top-end healthcare systems. So and if you look at Sri Lanka, we are in a very superb strategic position geographically as culturally, and we have a superb culture. When we had universities, I mean none of the top-end world never had universities. You know, Lower Mahapaya is a university, and we had it centuries ago. We had a superb engineering system, we had a top-end medical system, we have the oldest hospital in the world in Mihintale. So therefore, we have that history, so we can get that glory back, but in a different format. We have to be modernized to address these 250 million kids around us, in especially in South Asia. So we can invite them. Our whole idea is to give them also the choice that we are giving to Sri Lankans. So they can, the whole landscape of South Asia could be developed.
All right, Doctor, that is quite the interesting and ambitious idea. The IIHS Multiversity will stand testament to the fact that the healthcare industry still has infinite potential to grow, especially rooted in Sri Lankan soil, considering our rich history of healthcare and also our vibrant culture. I'm pretty certain that it's going to be one of the most successful ventures yet. And with that, let's conclude our discussion, Doctor. Thank you very much for having us on this program and for discussing with us this very ambitious project. That's all we have for you today. Join us again next time on AdaDerana BIZ 24. See you next time.